Welcome back, everybody, to In the Loop. What is up, everybody? My name is Michael Burpo, and this is In the Loop. And today I'm joined by Cody Giles and Katie Kinlaw, and we're talking about kind of the head, shoulders, knees, and toes of a website. So we talk about what goes into your header and navigation, into a home page, as well as your footer. And then we get into some more detailed pages like your product pages, as well as landing pages, and how you can optimize and make those parts shine. And I think it turns out to be a really good one. So if you're working on your website or want to upgrade it, definitely listen in. This episode is brought to you by Punchmark, the jewelry industry's leading website provider. Join the community of nearly 500 other jewelry stores in choosing Punchmark's easy-to-run and e-commerce-enabled website platform by visiting punchmark.com for your free trial demo. And this episode is brought to you by the Smithy Group, a digital growth agency that helps leaders and businesses dream bigger and achieve multi-generational integrity. Through insights and intelligence, digital marketing, and advertising solutions, they help businesses expand their business and grow their revenue. The Smithy Group has helped hundreds of businesses surpass their goals and believe that whatever your business, whatever your story, they will make it matter to your audience. A very special thank you goes out to Podium for sponsoring this week's episode, and you'll hear more from them later on in the show. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy. In the Loop is going to be giving away a pair of Apple AirPod Pros, and you can be entered in to win these AirPods by leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, following at the Smithy Group and Punchmark websites on Instagram, and DMing a screenshot of your review to the Smithy Group. You can learn more about this giveaway by going to punchmark.com/loop-giveaway, and these reviews really help us grow, so thank you very much in advance. Thanks, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. We got Katie Kinlaw join me and Cody Giles. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Excellent.
Good. So today we're going to talk about the anatomy of a website. I kind of want to go through the head, shoulders, knees and toes of a website. And I made that joke 3 times leading up to this, and you guys didn't laugh enough, so I had to make it on air so you guys would have to laugh. So
forcing us to make a laugh.
So exactly. So instead of head, shoulders, knees and toes, it's going to be kind of header, nav, body, footer, and the rest. And so just starting at the top of the page, these are the elements. And I think it's important for us all to kind of have an idea of the different main global elements on your website so that we can all kind of have a conversation and use identifiable terms and everyone's on the same page. So just at the top of the page, maybe we can kind of talk about what we've seen or variations, but we have the header, the navigation, the global alert. So this is going to be global. What have you guys seen people do that's cool up there? What do you think are must-haves that must be in your header, must be on the top of your website every single time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like some of the most effective headers, and again, coming from the digital marketing side of things, so really focusing on like call to actions and components like that, really having your information super clear, whether it's, I normally recommend for it to be in the header, sometimes in the footer, some sort of call to action, right? Like book an appointment, that's typically pretty popular.
Yeah.
Some of our clients are really big into custom, so they'll have like a separate like custom project button up in the top.
Start a custom project.
Yeah, start a custom project, some sort of call to action to really kind of highlight in the header. And obviously like your main information, phone number, address sometimes, really just, some of those pieces to really kind of call from a call to action standpoint.
I see it working really well whenever you have sort of an announcement bar above the header also, where you can put in something like the phone number, that simple call to action, or the email us option. That way you can keep the header, when you think about the logo and the navigation, really clean and really simple. We've seen several websites where you go there, the header just has, their full address, maybe the map of their store. They're just
it's too
cramming.
cluttered.
It's too cluttered. They're cramming so much information in there. Streamlined headers work most effectively using that announcement bar if you want to add more information towards the top. Leverage the announcement bar. It stays pretty sort of in the background of the site. It doesn't really stick out too much as to disrupt the feel of the site overall. So I love it whenever brands leverage that announcement bar to add more information. That way I know quickly if I need to contact them, I know exactly where it's at. It's in the very top of the page. Super easy to find.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I also think that having your logo looking nice, you don't need your full logo with a tagline. You can also just use like your chopped down variation, which is just either a stack logo or a landscape logo. I'm a big fan of don't put your hours, don't put your location in your header, put it in the footer. A lot more room down there. It's nearly everybody knows to check your footer for that kind of stuff. My other item is make sure you have a search bar in your header. So that's in the head, not in the navigation. I think it's better to have it in the header. And also, I'm a big fan of, I don't think you need to have the navigation item home, like actually HOME. I think everybody knows that you can hit the logo and it'll bring you back to the home page. That's true for every Punchmark website. I think it's true for like 90% of all websites at this point. Keep your items chopped down, streamlined, make sure you kind of know the bare minimums, main categories, main kind of compartments of your website. So that's the header, navigation, global alert.
Let's talk one more thing about the navigation.
Yep.
Because it's a different across every single website you see, how many navigational items you have as sort of those hero navigation pieces. What, Katie, to you, do you see is 10 is too much, but 3 is too little? What is that number that you typically see that works well?
Yeah, that's a really great question. From my perspective, I could go on forever about this topic. From my perspective, really focusing on your key components that you really want to push. I notice a lot of times that clients will have something just like super general in their navigation. So, regardless of whether they have 4 things, whether they have 10 things, from a usability standpoint, a lot of them don't even have like what's important to them in the navigation. Like if bridal is important to you, put that in the navigation. If custom is important to you, put that in the navigation. Don't just have like a standard jewelry drop down. Don't just have like a standard designers drop down. Make sure that you're tailoring your navigation to be specific to you, right? And then
as with all parts of your website, absolutely.
Right, exactly. But I would say from like like what is too much, what is too little. Definitely 10 is too much. I typically find the sweet spot is between 6 to 7 main components in that top navigation, but it's going to depend, on your design and what that looks like.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
When I was wireframing a lot of premium websites, so wireframing is the first step to designing a website, and I would always have that part, and it would always kind of take their website goals and make it set up for our visual designer, Sarah. Here are the ones that I always use. So if you're looking at your website and you don't have most of these, you should probably maybe, and you're in the jewelry industry, you should maybe consider changing to some of these. So I would always go in this order. I would go engagement. I would go all jewelry. If you're a diamond person, diamonds, designers, or brands, however you refer to them, have that whole list down there. Our store or about us, and this would include all those personality ones. So about us, our story, contact, any like social causes that you do, so donations, and then
staff,
my staff or our team. And I think that the last one I don't mind is contact. And I think that, or if you do custom jewelry, you can have that in there too. And contact as a direct link to your contact page, because if people come on there and they want to get in touch, because some people just like talking to someone, having contact, not a bad idea as well. What do you think?
That's good. The one other addition I think I've seen, especially for retailers that are wanting to push more e-commerce, is that section for, it's either what's new or we call it collections. And from that, it's top gifts for her, top gifts for him, top anniversary gifts, like really trying to focus on streamlining products for particular categories. Mm-hmm. We've seen some success in putting that in the navigation, even sometimes jumping at the very first option, especially if it's a client that has a lot of returning visitors to site. The biggest piece for that, if you're getting a lot of return traffic, you need to make sure you're updating the site frequently so your visitors don't get bored of coming to the same site over and over and over again because they've seen all that same stuff. So the ability to put in a what's new category gives them something to refresh and look forward to every time they visit the site. So just food for thought there.
Yeah. Curated collections, I feel like we talk about all the time. So double thumbs up for that.
Yeah, that's almost what I've started calling those soft categories. So there's hard categories, which are like, what is the product? So that could be, this earring is an earring. But you could also have these soft categories that are buy now reasoning. So you can have things like what's hot, like you mentioned. So that's popularity. It could be on sale. So there's a sale reasoning. Or it could be what's new. So that's in, or clearance, that's going out. Things along those lines. Or you can be as like artificial as you want and be like our picks. And it could just be like, like pick 10, put them in there, boom, call it a day, market with that. And then it's like just the pieces that you think everybody are trending towards. So
Exactly. When we talk to retailers about, they're like, well, what do I even put in these collections? Like, well, if someone comes in the store and says, what should I get for my wife for the anniversary coming up? What are the 10 things or the 5 things you're going to suggest? Put those as the 5 products on the site. You're golden.
Right.
Don't think too hard about this. I think look at your business. Your website should reflect your business. Moving on. So we'll talk about the body of your homepage. I know that you guys want to get into product pages as well as landing pages, but let's just finish up the homepage as well as the footer. So on your homepage, what do you guys think? How many sections do you think is like a good rule of thumb for as far as how many they should go down? Just off the top of my head, I can think of the slider or the banner at the top of the page should be number 1. I think like maybe 3 category sections, and then maybe like a social one that's like a relinking one, maybe to your Instagram, maybe to your reviews. Am I missing anything?
I think that's a pretty good layout. What I would add there is you have the header image or the slider, your 3 kind of key categories. So what is most popular in your store? Is it bridals, your number 1 focus? Perfect. That's that first category directly under the slider. You have some of those. I really like to see like an option underneath, let's say it's those 3 boxes there, another option that, or just it's a number of more boxes that just go to maybe individual like product categories. So shop rings, shop necklaces. It doesn't have to take up a lot of room. You can kind of stack the boxes together. Then you drop down below that social feed. I think what's also good to put in there is just reviews.
I agree.
Having a review widget.
Social proof.
Showing the latest review there. Social proof, exactly. Another key component for the homepage.
Yeah. And I think to kind of piggyback off of that too, I definitely agree. I think when we talk about like content in general, whether it's the design or whether it's actual text on the page, we talk about the inverted pyramid, right? Like focus with what's most important at the very top and then kind of trickle down. So, definitely start with highlighting those components up front and then kind of work your way down the page. And I think those other pieces too are super big credibility builders, right? In terms of reviews and all of those other components, it's just going to be a trust builder. And yeah, some sort of like social widget, but make sure that you're active on social if you're going to include those pieces too.
100%.
Yeah. And so I just pulled up, in my opinion, our best website we've ever made. I got involved in this one. So I did the wireframe. And this is SVS Fine Jewelry. So they are in, I think, Long Island. They do great online. Their layout for their homepage, and this, in my opinion, is the rule of thumb as far as how to sell online. Theirs is like Exhibit A. It goes shop by category, and there's 7 categories: engagement rings, fashion jewelry, earrings, bracelets, men's jewelry, necklaces, and watches, with a little widget to each category. Basic. They got 2 sale widgets that are each 50% of the page, and then they have like another sale widget, which is 100% of the page. They have a brand slider, 4 services, and a review, and then their footer. So let's talk about their footer. What do you think should be down in that footer? Are footers even important? What is a footer? How do we want to start with that, Katie?
Yeah, I think footers are a really great use for components that you feel like are important, but you don't want to include in the main navigation, right? I feel like people are so naturally tailored towards scrolling down to the bottom of the page and looking for specific information, right? So you mentioned like an address, right? So sometimes you'll have like a phone number up at the top, but you won't have the full like location information. Most of the time that's at the bottom. There's some sort of call to action, like contact us, about us, like some of that more specific information will probably be included in there too. I've also seen a lot where our clients won't necessarily include all of their designers and brands in the navigation because there's something that's more important to them from a real estate standpoint. So they'll pop that in the footer as well and include all of that information there. So there's different ways that you can also utilize that. Another thing to kind of throw in here, it's also important from an SEO perspective as well. So specific links that are in your footer is also an indicator to Google. So if there are things that are super important to you, it doesn't hurt to have them in the footer because it's another signal factor for the Google algorithm as well.
I think one thing I've always thought about, at least when I was, again, designing websites, it goes, must-haves in your footer are your store hours and your store address. You have to have those in there. And then I think that it's not a bad idea to say the same thing you said before, just in a different way. So if you want to do custom jewelry, and you have a widget up at the middle of the page, or at the top of the page, or even in your navigation that says start a custom project, maybe in the bottom you could say it a different way in case that it tweaks them a different way. So that could be custom jewelry or our design process or something like that. They could even link to the same page, but saying it or phrasing it a slightly different way can work. So instead of saying at the top you have our collections, at the bottoms you have a header that says brands. And then it's just a slightly different way of saying the same thing. It can sort of have a different impact on the people listening.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important from that footer perspective too that you don't put in too much information. I think of bad experiences that I've had from a mobile perspective of I'm scrolling and I'm viewing a page and I get to the footer. On desktop, the footer may look really nice. You have 10 to 15 links, you have your store information, all that stuff. But when you think about mobile, if it's not optimizing correctly, the footer is almost as long as the normal pages.
Right.
Oftentimes that footer is, one solid background color, pretty basic. So you could have a really great visual experience for a main page. Then you hit the footer and you're scrolling and you just lost all of that momentum that you were building up. So for a lot of what we do, it's really how do you streamline information. I agree with you, Mike, like having that core components, the store hours, the store address. When we talk about store address, putting that phone number there with that. Social icons, a lot of people will put that towards the bottom instead of really the top in the header. Also, the other piece, especially we see from e-commerce sites, is that sort of, join our newsletter.
That's a good one.
Sign up for our newsletter, putting that one in there too. You start to think, though, I've just said, keep it really concise, and we're just throwing out 10 different things that you could put in your footer. So really, it's what's most important. What do you want to drive success for?
Agreed.
And you need to organize that information in an easy to read way. So thinking about it in just columns. I also think, here's another one. I mean, we just said don't put too much in there, but I think don't put too much in there is like, you can actually put more than you expect in there.
Fair.
And on mobile, maybe you hide some of these elements or you put them inside of accordions. But something I really think, if you're trying to sell a lot online, and I'm talking more than probably $50,000 a year or $75,000 a year, you should be considering putting in your e-commerce policies, so things like privacy policy, terms of use, return policy, things along those lines. I think that that's actually a decent kind of box to check. No one's probably going to click it very often, but for the people that do, it might save you a sale or two or five down the line.
It's good.
Right. And I think another thing to kind of call out there too, and then we can kind of transition into talking about product pages, is I also feel like financing is such a big thing in the industry too. And sometimes there's not enough content on the actual site that actually talks about financing. If that is something that you offer, absolutely share a page for that. And I would think most jewelers offer financing. And really, that's another great link to have in the navigation as well as in the footer too.
That's a good one.
Even I've seen the logo, just putting the logo in the footer. So if it's just a firm, for example, dropping that Affirm logo in the footer, someone easily can recognize, oh, I've used Affirm on bigger e-commerce sites. I know that my local retail jeweler also does the same thing. This is great. I know that process. No problem to buy.
Definitely an air of legitimacy when you see Affirm or Sezzle or any of those people. I mean, Sezzle's sponsored us in the past. So, okay, maybe we can talk about, should we go to details pages or should we go to landing pages next? We'll find out in a moment. To hear more from Podium really quickly, we're going to jump away and we'll be back in a minute. Our clients know that it doesn't matter how great your website is if people can't find it. Podium helps you get found and chosen by making it easy to get reviews from your happiest customers, just by sending a simple review request through text. In fact, with Podium, every step of your customer journey is powered by text messaging, so you can talk to your customers on the channels they prefer. Start the conversation on your website with Podium Web Chat. Set appointments, answer questions, and close deals all in the same thread. When it's time to pay, just send a request over text so your customers can pay in seconds. And now that you've got a happy customer, send them a review invite over text too, so you can rise up the local rankings and start the cycle all over again. With all of this, plus powerful integrations and features in one consolidated inbox, Podium is your tool for customer communication. Send a text, get more done. Punchmark clients will receive 25% off when they sign up for Podium. Learn more at podium.com/Punchmark. Thanks, back to the show. And we're back. Now, the answer to your question before, landing pages. Katie, can you just take us through kind of like the anatomy of a landing page?
Yeah, so when we talk about landing pages, there's different kind of components that you can use it for, right? A lot of the times they can be centered around specific marketing campaigns, so they're tailored specifically to showcase, whatever the case is, right? So what's the next holiday that we have coming up? Mother's Day, and like graduation day is probably the next one, right? So whether you're curating a page that's specifically around some sort of sale or promotion that you're pushing, or a landing page could solely be for like your main product categories, right? So we talk about splash pages is another word that we use for them, interior pages. So there's kind of a combination of landing pages from a marketing perspective, and then splash pages more from a behavior user experience component on the site as well. For both of these, you probably want to have some sort of banner up at the top that showcases, what that page is about. And then again, inverted pyramid, have the most important pieces at the top and kind of trickle down. So whether you're running a giveaway, right, you want like some sort of form embedded on the site, right? So really figuring out what those call to actions are is really going to be a big piece if it's around a marketing component, and then any kind of informational text on the page as well. And in terms of imagery, if we talk about this all the time, having some sort of like product widget, if it's a showcase about like a trunk show or a brand, that's always great. And then I always like to have some sort of lifestyle imagery on the page as well. I feel
Totally agree.
Yeah, I feel like if you just have the product widget, it's just a little bit stale. And then, so more from a marketing perspective and more from an interior page perspective, very similar, having some sort of banner, having some, product widgets on the page, having some other call to action. And then also like mentioning financing, I think is another big piece to, to kind of help in terms of, that credibility builder. So if they're like, oh, okay, I like what I'm seeing, maybe I want to finance, I think it's important to have that on the page as well. But I think those are kind of the main pieces.
I think whenever we talk about landing pages from the jewelry industry specifically, one of the more popular ones that we pushed for is one center really around the bridal experience, since that is such a popular category for our retailers, right? I hate going to a website for a jewelry retailer. I click on engagement and all I see are rings. I see nothing that talks about the in-store experience that I can expect, what the different key leverage points are for what makes that business stand out. And it's really important when you think about, from a consumer perspective, they could shop anywhere for an engagement ring, right?
Right.
They could go to Kay, they could go online, they could go anywhere else and get any kind of ring. I don't think more often than not, you're not selling them on the ring, you're selling them on that experience. So having a landing page that talks about what you bring to the table whenever it comes to your bridal experience and how you make it different, because you are family owned, it's the low pressure environment. You offer maybe something borrowed, so you're helping them beyond just that engagement ring purchase, and you're really celebrating them as a couple and really leading up to the wedding day. Just different things you can add there that makes you stand out amongst the competition is really important. I want to see that just as much as I want to see all the rings that you have to offer on the site too.
I think also that there's on landing pages, and I mean, this is true for home pages, but I think at the bottom of your landing pages, so these are the secondary ones. So when you click from like the home page into, for example, engagement, engagement isn't technically really a category. There's things that go along with engagement. So for example, engagement rings, wedding bands, different brands in engagement, buy your diamond, things like that. I think at the bottom, there's a decent opportunity for you to relink to other landing pages that maybe can tell the story in a different way. So these are something like, think about for the user experience, think about why someone at the bottom of the page on this landing page, after you offer them, 7 different things to do. Well, it's because they didn't really love the other 7 things that you offer them. So let's throw in 3 slightly different ones on the off chance that they might click into it and kind of go in for a loop. Instead of them going down to the footer, hard bounce and going to somewhere else, think about things that are related, such as services, such as education. So this is like jewelry education or about your product education, or meet our team or something like that. That's a confidence booster, allow you to tell the story. It's like, yes, they went in looking for engagement and looking for engagement rings, wedding bands or something like that, but you didn't sell them the first time. Have them see your staff, see your faces, and then maybe they go back and they look for an engagement ring. That's the way that you spend more time on page. And even if they don't buy, at least Google is going to track that they've spent, 10, 15, 20 minutes on your website and not bought something, instead of 4 minutes and then bouncing after one page.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I feel like is so important about landing pages and interior pages as well. It's more about keeping the user, one, engaged, two, it's more of a curated experience, right? So they don't hit the product grid and then they're overwhelmed with all of the product that you have. If you really tailor it and you have it more pointed, so they hit on engagement or bridal, and then it has that, custom engagement, highlighting specific brands, it's just going to be a better user experience for them. And that's why I'm such a advocate for interior pages. I just think that it's much of a better user experience.
Think about going to the website and you click to view products and it's one of 100 pages.
Right.
As a consumer, you're like, oh no, it's just too much. I need to go somewhere else. And they just leave versus having those interior pages. Mike, you make a good point of engagement's not really a category. You break down within that and you have engagement rings, you have wedding bands. You could even start breaking out shot by different diamond shapes, shot by color XYZ, giving them kind of that entryway and then go off into the side to explore versus just throwing them right into the mix. They're going to get overwhelmed very quickly and they're just going to bounce and they're going to leave.
That's why I think those mega menus as drop downs. So mega menus, an extension of your navigation that can come down and offer more than just one column of sub navigation links. So you can also include images in there. So if someone clicks on engagement, you can also have a mega menu that's like all engagement or something along those lines, and it'll present them with a lot of information. So even if we did a different example, for example, diamonds, you can present them diamonds. You can also show them by shape and allow them to shop visually. Again, something that we've been touching on a bunch of times. So shopping visually and seeing the different cuts, and we have nice line art that goes with it. But you can also have related stuff like diamond earrings, diamond bands, diamond bracelets that allow you to kind of build that interlinking. Even if you suspect that they're there to find a diamond as in a loose diamond, there's also related ideas that are like diamond earrings that can also capitalize on the same customer and put them closer to where they want to go with them having to do decision and strategy making in their head. So what do you think, Cody? You round us off with product pages.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about product pages. So
we are such nerds.
Our product page, really what this encompasses, we're super nerds about e-commerce and product pages. So that product page is really drilling down. That's really the very bottom of a funnel for someone if they're shopping online with you. They're at that stage where they're looking at a single product that has the images, that has the name of the product, the description, the price, the add to cart, any of the additional information. That's all what we talk about when we talk about a product page in particular. Here, and what we've seen just being in the jewelry industry is a lot of retailers getting it wrong when it comes to formatting correctly to make sure these product pages can convert. You need these pages to convert and be able to turn someone from a prospect into a customer, clicking on that add to cart button and starting that checkout. I kind of took a few notes here, things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to product pages and how you can sort of refresh it or what you can think about. The first piece really is just naming of products. So I see a lot of times if I click on engagement rings, right, and I see the list of all the engagement rings, they all just say engagement ring.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing over and over and over.
Right.
Like really for retailers focusing on the setup of how you name your products and the descriptions you have around that to make it consistent across the board. That way, if I'm viewing one product and then I jump to another one, the same description sort of applies. And when I say that, let's say you're selling ready to go rings. I know I'm going to see maybe the diamond shape, then I'm going to see the carat weight, then I'm going to see XYZ, how you're structuring the information in the description, keeping it the same for all the products. That way, if I'm jumping around viewing multiple rings, I know exactly how you're presenting me with the information. So I'm getting that consistent feel and I'm not hunting and trying to find one particular key point about this ring. I know because you have it consistent across the entire site, it's easier for me to find, it's easier for me to convert from that point. So making sure you give some variation, dynamic options for the naming of your products so they can be different. So it doesn't feel like I'm looking at a page, everything says engagement ring and there's 100 products like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it helps with the search, but also even look at other luxury brands. How many times do you think Nike has found alternative names to the same phrase, Nike Air Jordans?
Right.
You got the Air Jordan Max and you got the ones and you got, even though they're all the same thing, but it's just like it tells the story a slightly different way and allows you to search and make different marks. I mean, you guys are selling engagement rings. Tell the story. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's big. The next piece is really about imagery and keeping that consistent across the board as well. So it's also very visually disappealing whenever I come to, let's say I click on engagement rings, I'm viewing the first page and there's 15 engagement rings. If they're all being shot in different lights and different scenarios, and there's not that consistency in visual, that can throw you off as well. And it can draw your eyes to different points. And oftentimes, let's say you had 10 products shot one way that looked really well and maybe 2 that weren't shot that exact same way, my eyes are going to be drawn to the 2 that weren't because everything else looks and feels good. Those don't. So do you want me to draw my attention to the 2 products that weren't shot in the best of light and don't really convey how beautiful that jewelry is? You don't want me to do that, but I'm doing that naturally if there's an inconsistency on the page. But when it comes to the product page and the images that you're showing, making sure you're showing that piece at different angles, maybe it is on a white background. I know that's really the most kind of normal way to approach it, the universal way to approach it, but also whenever you can, adding in video, for example, if you can add that somewhere, or really just lifestyle shots of that particular product. People want to see what this looks like when they're outside or when they're stacking it with other jewelry as well. They can't really get that full feel. When I just see this piece on a white background just sitting there, okay, it looks like a beautiful piece of jewelry, but if you can show me an image of somebody wearing it in natural sunlight stacked with other pieces, that's going to kind of picture it in their mind and think, oh, I have this piece and this piece and this piece it would stack really well with. So that ability to also from a visual standpoint convey just how beautiful these pieces are if they're not coming into the site and they could just buy online and never see it in person until it arrives at their doorstep.
And envision it on themselves, or on that person. It's like most people aren't going to buy that piece of jewelry, put it on, and then wear it in a display case area. It's like they're going to wear it and they're going to wear it out in the sun, out with this clothes. And it's such a low cost too. You could just have someone with a nice camera come in on a bright sunny day, set it up, boom, have one of your associates put on this jewelry, take a couple different options, a couple variations, and then include that as the final photo in the slide on the product details page. It's just a nice way to tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So even going beyond that, so we have their images, we have the description, we have the pricing, all that information, but thinking through what else you can add to that page just to sort of give it a bit more confirmation that this is a good brand to choose from, or that this is even a good, for some consumers that have never shopped with you online, like this is a reputable website. So what else can you add there? I think I've seen recently, I know you guys at Punchmark are rolling out a new option to add in brand information into those product pages as well. So if it's a Gabriel & Co. piece, I see all the information about the piece, but then if I scroll down, I get a bit more confirmation about Gabriel & Co. as a brand overall and kind of what they stand for and what their goal is. That reinforces my purchase. Even below that, if I were to have reviews, for example, that could be just overall store reviews to reinforce that, or additional other elements. I don't know if you guys have any too that just add to that that credibility factor there. And it's not just here's a product, here's the price, do you want it or do you not? We need to convince them.
Yeah.
You have to do that from a sales perspective in the store. You have to convince somebody to make the purchase. So
don't skimp on the details. Yeah.
Don't skimp on the details. What else can you add from that product page to really beef it up and convert somebody and to make them say, I want this piece of jewelry and I want it from this brand?
I think, you can have everything to do with the actual product itself. So this is, carat weight, but also how much gold, how much silver, all the precious metals. That is kind of stock. But I also think talking about all the details about, the brand information, the line or anything along those lines, but also if there's anything to do with how worn it is or the side stone, having that information clearly telling the story. And then also, brands. Jewelry is a tough one with reviews because usually people don't repeat buy the same piece of jewelry. So like you can at like a Sephora for makeup or something like that.
Right.
So it's usually a story view that have to be attached to it. But even showing, again, social proof, allowing people to see that, hey, you guys are reputable, you guys are doing this right. I think that also does indeed help.
Yeah.
Yeah, the store reviews is a good one, I think, for just our industry, since you're not going to get that one, and a lot of people buying that same product over and over. The other piece I wanted to mention too, obviously that main call to action on the page is going to be to add to cart, but feel free to also add an additional call to action under that could be request more information or schedule an appointment. Right, we definitely want to focus on e-commerce, get that online sell. But for people in your area, they maybe want to come in and see it in person. Give them that option. I really like having that request and information button, just because you think about it. If that wasn't there and somebody wanted to reach out, now I need to scroll to the header or I need to go to the footer to find your email address. Click there and then type in an email to ask about a piece. Try to remember all the details about it. Maybe I probably wouldn't even convey it in the same way for the jeweler to know exactly what I'm talking about. requesting information, being able to have more of that variation of instantly being able to ask a question about a product that's very specific. It's that one-on-one connection that's going to work there and get them in your store.
Right. And I think kind of two other pieces that I would mention kind of on the same vein is having the ability to add to Wishlist too, I think is super huge in terms of call to action. So it's very similar in terms of what you were saying. But I mean, in terms of like sharing Wishlist, that's such a good way to, continue to gather information on that particular client. And it's just another good call to action to have. Also on top of having the ability like embedded in the page to share that particular page. Like, I know we have like the ability, like we have the individual social icons, but we also have the email icon. So just being able to like click that email, send an email to someone, share that piece specifically, I think is another piece to consider in terms of just an additional call to action that's helpful.
I think, Katie, that point you made about Wishlist is really powerful. Like if you were a jeweler and you have Wishlist functionality on your website, why are you not telling people to add to their wish list? Because as soon as they do, you're getting that information back from them. You use that for clienteling. You can convert many sales. We've seen that work. We just put out a social post. Hey, browse online, add something to your wish list. Somebody added a $10,000 engagement ring to their wish list. They converted that into a sale within 24 hours.
Wow.
Like that powerful.
Yeah. And you can see the account has the follow-up information. You see that they're interested in 5 Kendra Scott pieces. Well, next time you have a sale on Kendra Scott, you give that person a call and it's like, hey, I saw you're interested in Kendra Scott. We have a sale going on here, 30% off. Stop in, we'll get you hooked up.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
And like email blast too, right? Like, I mean,
absolutely.
The ability to parse that customer data, I mean, there's endless ways, but like curated email blast too. We've seen for our clients that do the most from an e-commerce perspective, focused predominantly around like Facebook retargeting, as well as curated email blast, specifically based on wish list data. So
absolutely.
All good stuff.
Good stuff. Golden stuff.
So that is the heads, shoulders, knees and toes of the website. And I hope you guys learned something and got it out. Your website, it's so important and it's such a versatile tool. Whatever your guys' store is doing, you need to be capitalizing it and making these improvements on it. Pay attention, start focusing on your web presence. It'll pay off. Thanks, everybody. We are going to be back next week, and I appreciate all your time and listening. Thanks, everybody. Hey, thanks for listening. Leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and remember to subscribe. It really helps us grow. Thank you so much. See you next week.